It feels like the Academics YouTube channel has kind of gone a little bit dark over the course of the past year or two. He's clearly kind of chosen like streaming over what was always his thing, which is his. I'm gonna call them like semi-scripted. When you talk about the videos that he's always like, probably the stuff that you originally liked him for and everything is like, I don't think they're scripted, but I think he gets a lot of the information together and is able to sort of like reference it all very quickly, as opposed to the streaming thing. Do you think that that kind of like opened up a window for a lot of people like 1090 Jake and Swamp Stories, et cetera, to sort of start covering that stuff? Because I was pushing the line when we were on call the other day. I was saying you should have never stopped doing War in Chirac. Now I understand why you stopped, but in retrospect, I think it seems to me like it would have been probably from a content perspective, I would have kept doing it if I were you. Now, I also think he probably would have never got a Spotify deal if he had kept doing that, if he had fully like leaned in on the bloodthirstiness. But it definitely opened the door for a lot of other people to do similar stuff. Like how do you look at that? And if you were Academics, would you get back on the semi-scripted main channel videos as well?
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting point that you made. I watched the interview when you said to him, kind of like, why didn't you get a whole team of people and do the war in America and do the war in every state? You could do Jacksonville, you could do the Bronx, you could do all this stuff. And I kind of agreed with you. And I feel like I think that Axe sees himself as more of a mature creator. I think he feels like he's stepped up. I don't think
Yeah.
he'd want to take what he would see as a step down. But also, I feel like Ack did nothing wrong as far as like the hate that he gets from the war in Chirac. People never like he has made his defense, which I think is valid, where he says like it was a satire. I was trying to really poke fun at the ridiculousness that these guys were so brutal and so, like, as he would say, savage. As far as like, I was calling Lil Reese the Grim Reaper and all of this stuff, and it's like I feel like a lot of people that criticize him, like, they're not willing to accept that like he was satirizing it, and he was one of the first people that had even discovered this subculture. And to some now, someone like me exists with all of the knowledge and all of the. I've seen all the War in Chirac, and I've seen the Louis Theroux documentaries on different gangs, and I'm trying to bring a very level-headed approach to when I talk about gang politics. None of that existed back when Ack was doing the War in Chirac. He was the first guy. He literally opened the door and walked into a crime scene and was like, "What the fuck?" And I think that actually that reflects in his content, and I don't think he deserves the hate that he got for it.
And I,
And
I
I
love
think
the
that
idea that
should have
like a person 10 years into their career will be judged by like the tone of the content that they first made when they entered into the game. That is what you should be judged on, not the stuff you're doing currently, but the tone, not even just the existence of the content. And you also realize that the vast majority of people that say something negative about the war at Chirac never even seen it in the first place, right? Like, it's just the vast majority of people will never go back and watch a video. They just hear the name and they're like, well, that sounds offensive. That sounds like something that somebody should not be doing. They're kind of offended by the notion of it. And yeah, it's to me seems like the worst, most bad faith reason to invalidate his content. And I don't know, when I see just like how copied it is, sometimes I'm like, damn, dude, like you could have definitely kept churning those videos out if you had maybe like got a little bit of a team in place to do it. But also, it probably would have held him back from a lot of other things as well, you know.
I said to him when I met him for off the record when we linked up in Miami, like I said to him, I pitched this idea to him that I might have to just do on my own because he didn't like it. But I said to him, like, bro, have you ever thought of going back and retelling the war in Chirac in more of a level-headed tone? Like he could take the war in Chirac to someone like Netflix and say, let's do a 6-part, 10-part miniseries where we actually go back and retell those stories with the hindsight, with the with the tone that now we know everything. Now we've had 10 years to digest and realize this gang war going on in Chicago is really no joke. And like, go and meet Tuka's mom, or go and meet Lil Reese and talk to him about like the being the Grim Reaper and like what life really was like going through that. Like, I've always felt like, why not go back and with a big budget and rewrite history and kind of set the record straight on War in Chirac. But I don't think again, I don't think he wants to go backwards with his career. And he's a real kind of pioneer in this space. So, I kind of feel like I can't really question his decisions. But as a fan of the War in Chirac, I would have loved to have seen him kind of like remake it, do the sequel and do it in a way that kind of sets things straight.
Right, but like okay, so that's kind of part of what I was thinking though, is that I think Ack has like a standard for how important a story needs to be in order for him to cover it, right? And it seems like he kind of has a hard time finding stories that seem interesting enough to warrant like a 8 to 10 minute video on his main channel going through the details of it. And I don't blame him, because the difference between his channel now and 5 years ago is that 5 years ago there was just a lot that needed to be decoded and explained, and nowadays it feels like you're just so used to seeing like a Daily Loud post or a Instagram post that will have like a short caption and basically summarize the entire news story to such an extent that you don't really feel like you need to go watch a YouTube video about this. And you kind of see it in the views too, where I think he did a video about Nicki and Cardi's husbands, Offset being one of them, Big Zoo being the other, going at it. And it's like, that's a pretty big story, like these are two of the biggest rappers and their husbands are beefing. That's a pretty big story. I think it did like 95K when I looked on his channel, which to me maybe is like a sign that the people have grown a little bit like fatigued of the up to the minute hip hop news stories. And like, we see it too, where it could be the most interesting story in the world and we could cut a clip from it. And if it comes out like 2 days after the incident in question, unless you have the kind of channel like yours where people are just like very certain that you're going to be bringing new information to the table. And like Ack has the reputation of bringing correct and well-researched information. But I feel like a lot of times people just don't feel the need to click on a 10-minute video when they feel like they got all that they needed from TikTok or Instagram. So it's kind of like a weird new media space that we live in, and it's kind of shocking how astute the fans are and how capable they are of making decisions about what they want to watch and what to avoid, because there's just so much content out there that it's very the allure of not watching something is pretty strong at this point as well.
I think Akademiks has grown a lot over the years as a creator, though, because it's like, the thing is, back when he was doing the 10-minute videos originally, early, when he was doing like the Meek and Drake beef and shit like that, he was head honcho. Nobody else was doing it. He was sort of ahead of the curve, really, as far as doing like hip hop media reporting. Whereas now, Nicki's husband and what was it, Offset, get into a beef, and 1 million people have made 1 million 10-minute videos on it within 5 minutes. And it's just kind of like everybody's doing it. So Flacco will have a video about it. You guys will have a reaction to it. And, Akademiks is sort of like just shouting into the noise. But he ultimately like created that scene. All of the people making those videos are basically his sons at this point. And ultimately, the way Ack does things now is it's kind of like, yes, you could spend a couple hours putting together a little 10-minute video and drop it. But the way Ack operates now is he's less like a TV show and he's more like the 24-hour Fox News for hip hop. Because he'll be on stream drinking Henny and reacting to the shit as it happens, and kind of, do an hour-long clip that'll be live and will be out before anyone else has even had a chance to react to it. And, realistically, like, and it's no disrespect to Ack, because doing live stuff is different to doing a crafted 10-minute video that has all the info. Like, Ack will be on live sort of being like, oh, where's the info? Scrolling through, trying to find stuff, but delivering it first. Whereas it's like, that might be an hour-long clip, and a lot of it might be him kind of like trying to find the information rather than actually delivering it. But I feel like he's probably doing better financially and relevancy-wise by doing his sort of like live stream approach to things, because that's where things are going.
It's weird because it's like, from my perspective, I have kind of been driven in the direction of building a business and monetizing as well as possible. So like a lot of the interviews that we do, we're going to chop it up and we're going to put out the clips first, because that's realistically the way to make the most money off of a piece of content, which you see Say Cheese do the same thing and Vlad do the same thing, etc. If you don't have like some big name sponsor on your video, that's pretty much the best way that you could go about making as much money from it as possible. Whereas when I look at what Ack does, if he sits on stream for 6 hours, it's like YouTube streaming rates are garbage. You're going to make, very, very low amounts, like couple $100 from being on stream for a few hours. And then you cut up all the clips, but you want to post the clips right away, so you don't have time to wait for them to get reviewed. So sometimes I look at that and I'm like, it's the best way to engage an audience, both in real time and after the fact, in terms of making a lot of clips. But at the same time, like, if that was my day-to-day, I don't think that I would be able to really like pay a staff in the way that I do now, because that's just not really like leaning in the direction of like optimizing for money. But then at the same time, like it looks fun. And a lot of times I think about it like, fuck, if I'm going to get up in the morning and watch YouTube videos and read the news and like check out Twitter and get caught up on everything that's going on news wise, why don't I just do a daily stream where I just post up and kind of do it? I don't know though. Sometimes it just doesn't, like, I overbook myself with interviews so much that I can't really like be that guy on a day-to-day basis, which kind of bothers me, because there's a part of me, like when I see him reacting to an interview clip that I did, and like the interview itself got like 50K, and then he reacts to a clip from it and it gets 150K, there's definitely a moment where I'm like, like what am I doing with my life? Like, is this a good use of my time, or did I go in the wrong direction? Because it feels like the reacting is what makes a lot of content hit. Sometimes I feel like I should do an interview and drop a reaction video to my own content the same day on another channel or something.
There's something weird going on at the moment, man, with this reaction content, because it's like I'm kind of like you. Like, I'm trying to build a staff. I'm trying to get to the point where I can drop a full documentary every month, and that I don't need to be working 24/7 to make that happen.
Right.
But at the same time, like the way Axe got things set up is like he's the face of everything. He's central to everything. He's the man, and nothing happens without it going through him. But at the same time, like, you got to be on and ready to roll 24/7, and like that's not really the life I'm trying to live. So it's tricky, and it's like there's always going to be like 100,000 people that are going to tune in to hear Ak react to everything, and I'm one of those people. Like, a lot of the times it is kind of like some shit happens and it's like, you know what, I ain't even going to watch the main video. I just want to hear what Ak has to say about it, because Ak is like the filter to a lot of content that is out there in the hip-hop space, and it's kind of like I want to see it through the lens of Ak, and the lens of like I'm not going to watch it and then watch it again on his stream and watch him react to it. But that does make me think, like, there is something a little bit crazy going on with the whole, like, fair use thing on YouTube. Because obviously, like, fair use is very important, especially when it comes to making documentaries and doing analysis and critiquing things that have happened. But, like, there was that big beef a little while ago. I don't know if you followed it, of, like, XQC and Destiny kind of, like, beefing over what fair use is. And you got a guy like XQC who he's reacted to some of my stuff before. He'll literally get up out the chair and just let the video that he's reacting to run, and then just keep all of the revenue. So it's a little bit like, I don't know whether there's and I'm not coming to Ak, but it's just kind of like there is something a bit strange where it's almost like people are kind of harvesting other people's content for their own uses, and then it's kind of becoming bigger than the original content.
No, because
so like,
I clicked on a video. I clicked on a video on Ak's channel, and it said it was like him reacting to the Trapper Ross documentary. And I watched like the first 20 minutes of it while I was doing cardio the other day. And the motherfucker probably said about 6 words throughout the first 20 minutes of the video. And I was just like, okay, never mind. But on the other hand, a lot of times I find myself saving time where if there's some viral fresh and fit moment or something on the whatever channel, or if that fucking weirdo Pearl, who I'm currently embroiled in beef with, if Pearl goes on some news channel and gets in an argument with the host or whatever, and if I see that Destiny reacted to it, I'm so much more likely to click on that, because it's then like, not only am I getting the content of watching this freakish thing take place, but I could also, you know, somebody that I really trust from a more political perspective, I would kind of put Destiny in the Akademiks category. Obviously Akademiks minus the bisexuality as far as we know, but you know, I would kind of like go in that direction, because then I get to basically kill 2 birds at one time with 1 stone even, and that's kind of appealing. But then when I was watching that Akademiks react to your thing, I was like, you know, if I'm Trapper Ross, I maybe don't care for this so much. Like, maybe you don't need to watch my whole documentary on stream.